Hello, I'm 𝗏𝗶𝗀. Welcome back. In the last few episodes of my mini cabin build, I've been talking about that I bought a 1-ton mini excavator. So this is the first installment of a few videos on this series. A few more in the future will be some upgrades, maybe a digging claw and a rake that I'll add to it later on. Right now, this is just going to be an initial video about purchasing it, where I ordered it from, why I chose this machine. So I've had the machine and put about 10 hours on it in the last month and a half, and it's been trouble-free so far. I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail why I chose to get this machine rather than a lot of the other ones sold on eBay. There's a lot of manufacturers selling these. This one just seemed to be a little cut above. So this one has a hydraulic thumb, a few other little features, and it was $6,100 with free shipping to my door. So it's a big-time back saver, great for the garden, great for using around the sawmill, hauling rocks around my place. So if you're interested in the video, stick around and enjoy it. So I should probably reword that. It didn't ship to my door. I actually got it shipped to my business I work at. It's a lot easier to receive it with the forklift than to try to deal with it, lift gate fee or anything like that at my house. So unwrapped it here. It came with a manual, some tools, grease gun, basic stuff like that. Some of my friends came out to take a look at it and drive it off the pallet and drive it around the parking lot a little bit. So one thing I want to note was as soon as I drove it off the pallet, I could feel one of the tracks were tensioned too tight. You could just feel it was more under load when you're driving that hydraulic motor. So I just backed off the jam nut, backed off the adjuster bolt a few turns, and tightened up the jam nut again, and it was good to go. So when you get these things, sometimes you got to tinker with them a little bit. That was about all I had to do, but just pay attention to that. You know, I see a lot of people on forums having issues with these things all the time. You got to be a little bit mechanically inclined. So the nice thing about it was it was shipped with just a little bit of gas. It was clean, no water in it. It started right up. Heard some horror stories about people getting these things from eBay and different parts of the internet and just having to work on them right off the bat. I mean, you're going to have to work on these things sooner or later, but it was nice it didn't have any water in the fuel. Fired right up, no dead battery. Everything just seemed to work just fine. So by the time I got it home, it was dusk, so I took off the little sunshade roof and brought in my shop, looked everything over. Some of the zerks were painted over, but everything looked like it had a good douse of grease and all the bushings and pins. Looking over the machine, there were some features like this divider valve, this little manual divider valve for the hydraulic thumb. All the hydraulic lines had all hose wrapping all throughout everything, which is just really nice, a little extra cut above. Also, all the lines go into the boom, which is another nice feature you see on more expensive machines. And just everything had nice hose protection on it, little badge right there for the make and model. Checking out all the thickness, blade is 10 millimeters, undercarriage is all 10 millimeters. Everything seemed to be pretty sturdy, gusseted blade, 12 millimeters worth of boom meats. Stuff just seemed to be pretty well. I just want to kind of get some of these shots in here to show the thickness of all the metal that's used on this machine. Another feature I was really looking for in a machine, and this had it, were actually large pins that held everything together with retaining bolts. Some of the cheaper machines will run big bolts and nylock nuts on the other side. This is just a nicer cut with the retaining pins and bushings. When I got it, I realized it also had this motor bar spreader here that keep the frame kind of gusseted and protect the motor in the back. Some of the cheaper machines definitely don't have that. Didn't make it here 100% pristine though. There's some dents and some dings, scratched off paint. So there's some scratch paint there. Something that you can easily touch up with a little Rust-Oleum yellow and black. But I just want to point that stuff out. There's a few little hiccups along the way. So scratch paint, little bits of dents here and there. But hey man, it's an excavator. It's a little piece of machinery. It's going to get scuffed up and scratched. I don't mind putting a little bit of touch-up paint on it. So this is one of the reasons I was looking over this model. Just a few little things. It has the external oil filter. Some of them don't have this for the hydraulic return. Everything's set up pretty well for the cable and choke pulls. Little stainless steel clasp right here. The throttle works great. The choke works fine. This model actually starts up pretty well even without the choke on. I've had some Kohlers and some other engines that usually have to put the choke on even when they're warm to fire them up. This one fires up right at idle without the choke. I think most of them are set up this way, but the engine's all rubber isolated, mounted on here. Not a ton of room back here to put a counterbalance, but we're going to work on one of those in a future video probably. Supposedly, it has a Parker pump, so we'll pull off this side cover. Another nice thing is this one actually came with, I don't know, 7 to 8 inch fan up here. Kicks on as soon as you turn on the ignition. That's nice. Pretty clean, pretty simple setup in here. Lock washers, nut, and then another nut with a nylock on top of that ran down. Same for the engine mounts and bottom. Decent looking drives. This is another cool thing I didn't realize. Some people are selling kits that you can put on here, a weld-on kit to kind of make sure this whole back area is protected by your motors a little more. Keeps them from bending or anything like that. I was able to tie this thing down in the bed of my truck with this big spreader bar. I know that looks like it's probably 8 or 10 millimeters, something like that. Nice big spreader bar. It's all welded in place back here. Get your pull start back up. There's the 13.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton. This one actually has a plastic hydraulic reservoir tank. I stopped by the gas station, put a little ethanol free in this thing. Try to run that always in most of these small engines. So it's always kind of good to check over a bunch of hardware. I'm going to run it for about 2 hours with the oil that's in it and then change the oil. At least I'll know I got good quality stuff in there. Same with the hydraulics. I think in the next 5 hours I'm going to switch that out. I got some other hydraulic fluid. But I noticed this pump supply line was sitting right up on the frame rail here, so I cut some probably a little under 1/8 inch plastic, heated it with the torch, drilled some holes in it, and set it up just as a chafe protector, because that hose probably over enough time would vibrate and get a little cut in it. Just definitely don't want to be buying hoses for this thing. So look over your hose routing. Anywhere you see something chafing or anything like that, wrap it with something that'll protect it. So I'm getting ready to put the back panel on here. The hardware came out kind of rough, so I put a little grease on here, that or never sees, but also don't want to rattle it out. So in anticipation with this machine, I ordered this little stainless lock washer set off of Amazon. I'll put links below. Just figured I'd put these on all this hardware. Keep them from backing out and rattling off. Floorboard is actually pretty thick on here. It's over 1/8 inch. I'm not sure what it equates to in metric, but it's actually thicker than the Yanmar I have floor plate. So here's the hydraulic reservoir right here. It's got a little sight glass. Looks like it's a little on the low side. I'm going to drain this out and put some 46 hydraulic fluid in here. Some people say some of these have like more of a vegetable-based, lower quality hydraulic fluid in here. Looks like an extra port on the side. Blow a little air in here and clean that out, but well, that's kind of nice. All these bolts have a stainless lock wire going through them, so they can't loosen up on your swing motor. That's kind of a nice little touch. You know, all these lines through here are all hose wrapped for protection. A bunch of the wiring has pretty nice connections on it. Jump to the other side and take a look at it. Pretty decent sized battery. Kind of wish this was located in the back. Any extra weight we can get back there, the better. Yeah, there's that stainless tie. Keep those swing motor bolts tight and not backing out. Pretty easy to get to everything in here. Little LED light. See, I was saying wiring connections on here are pretty nice. A lot of them have the lines over the top of the boom. These ones run inside. Everything's got nice hose protectors on it. They got these divider valves up here so you can run your hydraulic thumb. That was another nice thing, is this one actually has a thumb on it. That's actually hydraulic. You can rotate these and run like a auger or anything like that, and then turn them back and then start running your thumb again. But yeah, all the lines go through the boom here and they're all wrapped really well. Big rubber grommet right here where all the lines go into the house of the machine. Keeps them from chafing, I guess, which is nice. May do some type of a guard here, or I might see if I can flip this cylinder around and put these lines on the inside if I have clearance. But the pins, I really like the way the pins are set up on here. They got these retainer bolts. Everything looks like it's been greased pretty well from the factory, which I'll pump some more grease in, but it's got these like insert bushings in here. Feels like this one had just a little cut above. See, retainer pin on the other side and kind of a bushing mounted in there. Everything sits nice, compact up against the dipper here. Nylock on all this. Nylock on all the hardware up here that holds these pins in. I would like if these were encapsulated. Some of the machines have more of a encapsulated scraper blade, but this is like all 10 millimeter. It's got these slots in here. I was able to use those to kind of hold it down on the bed of the truck. We'll see if this holds up. It's all gusseted on the inside. It's capped in right here. This is all 10 mil. It's gusseted on the inside with 10 mil. All this stuff where I saw a YouTube video where a guy broke this off on an old machine. This is all 10 millimeter. The whole bottom carriage down here is all 10 millimeter. Really nice welds going through here. Pretty thick gussets. So I think this is all going to be fine. Again, everything's been graced down here pretty well from the factory. Access ports up here for get into your controls if you want to switch it over. This is just set up the same as I think cat controls. Same as my Yanmar. I'm just going to keep it that way. Pulled the little sunshade off in here. That was even set up to plug goes into the top part and bolts onto here. I think it might keep it if it flopped on side from going all the way over, but it's not really a ROPS by any means. Brought it off of here so I could bring it in through the door of my shop. Pretty simple little machine. I like that about it. It looks very easy to work on. Another nice thing is everything seems to have these quality control marks on here. So everything's been torqued down and checked off with the little paint marker on all the hydraulic fittings. Everything's been inspected, and I mean, it seems like this one's, I've seen some stuff on some forums and things where they've been put together pretty scabby. I mean, maybe it'll come apart, but you know, everything's got marks on it that it's been torqued. You get Briggs and Strattons like this, but you can also get them with like a 3-cylinder, I think 14 or 16 horse Kubota. The Kubota, this is probably a 70-pound engine. The Kubota's got to be 350 pounds at least, so I don't mind if I can put 200 pounds back here. It's not going to harm the machine at all. Oh, and this setup would be kind of nice to mount some extra stuff too. Just wing nut this off. This is where if you had a diesel model, the fuel tank sat down here, the extra large diesel tank, and there was a thread-on fuel gauge that sat on there for a cap. This feels like that's aluminum. Turn this on and turn the key on. You hear that fan kicks right on. Designed, wired to pull the air out, which makes sense. Take any of the heat from this side of the engine. The fan on the engine's pulling air in that way. And then that thing's designed to move all the hot air away from the exhaust and out this way. No hour meter, but that's fine. I actually ordered a hour meter, temp gauge, and a bunch of stuff. I'm probably gonna put the temp gauge in the hydraulics somewhere just to read what the hydraulics are doing. This is the throttle, headlight. So all this hardware came out pretty tight. Felt like it was kind of jammed in there. One of them was cross-threaded, so I ran a tap through. Hopefully I can clean it up. But some reason this back panel, most of the panels on here, feel a little bit like handling washing machine panels. Maybe it's a hair thicker, but not by much. I mean, it's sturdy enough, it's going to be fine unless you really slam it up against a rock or a tree. All right, enough overview. Let's get to using this thing. Here's some footage I compiled over the last month and a half. Doing some little grading alongside my driveway, just cutting some stuff for some better drainage. I found this machine is a little harder to grade with than my bigger Yanmar. It's a single pump system rather than the triple pump in my Yanmar. I'll go into some of that detail later on, but you know, it's better than a shovel and a pickaxe. A lot easier, saves the back. Doing some more a little water bar ditching on some of the trails going up to my mill. This is just the kind of stuff that, you know, I might get out there sometime with my bigger machine and clean it up. But honestly, since I've been running this little one, I've been wanting to get some hours in on it. And having that thumb for ripping out brush and doing weeding in the garden and moving logs around my mill, that little hydraulic thumb and how small this machine is has some disadvantages being the small machine and a little tippy, but it also has some big advantage getting some tight spots. Here I'm getting ready to bring my tiny cabin home, and I was prepping the spot, getting some of this rock that I've had there sitting for a year and a half since I got it unloaded from a friend's dump truck, and something too big to move around by yourself, and this thing did a great job. Definitely a good little machine. I want to give a shout out to 2 different YouTube channels if you're interested in these mini excavators. So a channel I want to give a shout out to is Ron at 𝗶 Adventures. He picked up a QH12 used off of a marketplace. It was basically almost brand new, but he had to go through, clean the carb, do a few things to get it running. He's got some good videos on doing some maintenance on them, and he's starting to work on some buckets and some attachments like that. And again, his 𝗶 Adventures, he's got all kinds of cool content on his channel. He has a really cool Suzuki Samurai build he did and a bunch of other neat stuff. So go ahead, there'll be links below to his channel, so check that out. And the next channel I want to give a shout out to 𝐂𝐫𝐴 Junk. I came across his channel a few months back when I was looking over mini excavators, and he had some pretty cool content. He's an older fella, and he does a bunch of fabrication in his garage, building buckets and different things and different attachments. He hooked up a hydraulic motor to a mowing deck, basically, and built a really cool brush mower for it and runs it off the hydraulics of his excavator. Definitely worthwhile. Check out his channel. If you dig back on his channel too, he's got a really cool little powerhouse and a little hydroelectric system. Definitely some channels worth checking out. Again, links below in the description. So all this video footage I compiled over the last month and a half or 2 months using this thing, and man, having that hydraulic thumb for cutting firewood, this was just some windfall, fell alongside my driveway, and it was kind of a mess for a few days until I got time to get down there with the excavator and pick it up. And it's so nice to be able to pull stuff out of the bushes and start cutting it up into firewood. It's a back saver. It's nice to be able to cut at waist level as well rather than cutting on the ground. And it sucks always hitting your chainsaw blade in the dirt and dulling the blade. So this definitely is going to be a game changer when it comes to processing firewood. Like I said, I got a Yanmar. It's a much bigger machine, but never got around to putting a thumb on it yet. I should have. Would have made it a lot more useful. But this machine has a few features that the Yanmar doesn't have, and that's it's being more nimble, small. Yanmar I have to put on a large car trailer. This thing is 1 ton, so I can put it in the back of my truck, or I can haul it in a smaller trailer. And I got a few projects at some friends' places doing some rock wall work and doing some trenchings for the water and power line. And this is just going to be a lot better machine, especially because I got to haul it about a few 100 miles. So it's got to be good to be able to haul this right behind my Toyota FJ or something rather than having to use the big truck and a car trailer to move my bigger machine. Well, spent about an hour, cut up that tree that fell over there in a windstorm, and got this stuff cut up here. This is some hemlock I've been needing to get to. It's just been too hard with my other machine with the manual grapple on it. So it's been sitting, got it all cut up. The machine's been running at just above idle off and on for the past hour. And the temperature on it, the little temperature probe I put on says the hydraulic fluid is around 83 right now. So that's not bad. I'm not doing a ton of crazy work, just mostly thumb work, travel, little blade, not doing a trenching, but people talk about these running hot. That's got the fan on the side. I think it's about 48 to 50 out. We'll keep doing some updates when we do some more digging and stuff and see how hot this thing really gets. So here's another job that fell into the weeds, basically. I brought these home maybe 4 or 5 years ago. There's some kind of T-bar pallet racking, mainly for storing lumber or metal on. They end up making some good shelving. I brought them back from my mill so I could start getting some of my lumber stacked up higher on these. Unloaded them, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago with my tractor, and just the weeds started growing around them. So got in there with this little hydraulic thumb on this Mini and just started lifting these out. Something 2 guys could have hauled each one out individually, but it's hard to get extra hands around here to help. So it's nice to have a machine like this. It's a complete back saver. For the $6,100, it's really hard to beat. You got to put it in perspective. Of course, it's not going to have Japanese quality like a Kubota or a new Yanmar. It's not going to have triple pumps like those machines are going to have. There's going to be some downsides with the single pump I'll talk about later. But one thing is, you got to consider not beating up your body. You don't want a hernia. You don't want to have back problems. I already have back issues, so anytime I don't have to lift this stuff by hand, the better. For $6,100, another thing to put in perspective, my Yanmar is like a 30-plus-year-old machine, early 90s. It's about a 5,500-pound excavator. It doesn't have a hydraulic thumb. I bought it. It's got 3,200 hours or something. I paid about $11,000 when I bought it from a gray market importer. And within 2 weeks, the final drive went out on it, and that was $2,500 just for the final drive motor for the machine. It's still working great now after I replaced it. I've had no other major problems other than, basic wear and tear, going through rebuilding some cylinders here and there. And luckily I can do that kind of stuff myself, but it's not cheap to do. And I worry about if a pump goes out on it sometime, it might render the machine useless. So a few things I want to mention about these machines. No lockout on the controls, so either turn it off if you're not right by it and you got kids around or anybody, and always lower it down. Don't make a mistake by doing something dumb like climbing on and grabbing a joystick, because you can pull it, swing it right onto you, Another thing, I'm going to shut it off. I'm not exactly sure why you shut it off. And it takes like 5 seconds before it completely shuts off. Maybe it's got a little solenoid in the carb, I don't know. Never leave a machine with the hydraulics up like this, because again, kid could be picking around on it. Kids think these are toys, you know. I mean, adults think they're toys, but see, even with it off, there's no lockout. So I always make a point to lower the blade, lower the bucket, anything like that. Make sure there's no pressure from the hydraulics at all. If you're gonna park it and leave it, because it'll stay up for a long period of time like that, but just take someone to mess around with it, pull the valve and drop it down. Not a big thing, but just something to pay attention to. So like I said earlier, this is a single hydraulic pump system, not a triple pump. That's the way they save quite a bit of money building these things. So if you're traveling and you pull both levers back, both tracks will move at the same time, but you release one lever and all of a sudden more flow goes to the other track and the track spins about twice the speed. That's why these can be pretty jerky when you run them. I run this thing around third throttle, maybe half, but it has plenty of power at that RPM. Just makes the travel smoother. But also here I'm traveling back. Now I go to rotate. See how my track slow way down? Or if I drop the blade or raise the blade, travel speed slows down. It's a big difference on the single pump, but it's what makes this thing very affordable and it makes it very simple to work on. My Yanmar, for instance, a lot of name brand machines run triple pumps, which are super costly, thousands of dollars for a hydraulic pump. And the way they work is like one pump will run one track, the right track, other pump will run the left track, and the third pump on my Yanmar, for instance, will run the blade. So you can grade and it doesn't slow or speed up any track when you're grading. And those same functions run for different functions on the, say, the curl, the dipper, and the boom. So if you're traveling, you try to move your boom on my Yanmar, one of your tracks will slow down. So that's the way they kind of get around it for making this a very simple machine and just going to make travel and movement a little more jerky. But with that being said, you can do quite a bit with this machine, even at third throttle. It has plenty of flow even for a single pump. You can raise, for instance, up the boom and curl the bucket at the same time. Right here I'm rotating and raising up the blade. All that stuff works just fine even with the flow rate of a single pump. Right here I'm just moving the lever back and forth hard and stopping, and people talk about these being really jerky, but you can finesse them, run them smooth. But a lot of people just jam it over like that and move around with the lever full tilt. You don't really need to run it. You can really run these things pretty smooth. They're a little more bouncy being a lighter, smaller footprint machine and a little more tippy, but you can do quite a bit. And if you're ditching, like cutting in water line, things like that, and clearing out brush and stuff, you can do quite a bit with a little simple machine like this. You know, years ago I bought a 3-point backhoe, smaller backhoe unit than this, but it fit on my tractor. It had a little PTO driven pump. That thing was about $4,500 and it was way smaller. And this thing can drive under its own power. It's got own track system and engine. So I think the value is definitely in this. Now that's pretty much full reach there. And that's a pretty good sized rock. Basalt here. This is supposed to be a 15-inch bucket. So this is rocks like 16 by probably 18 by probably 16 that way. It's mucky, it's spring. I gotta definitely wash this thing off. Don't want to keep it this way too long, but it is an excavator. Gonna be getting used in the rain or shine. Simple adjustment, jam nut adjustment rod. Just put a wrench in there after you loosen up a jam nut, and to back the track off, you turn this and thread that out. Tension the track, make sure that jam nut's released. Hey Sasha, there's nothing special in there. And then you tighten that up until the track is fairly tensioned. So I want to make this clear. I paid 100% out of pocket for this machine. I'm not paid to make this video in any way, shape, or form. As you know, if you're familiar with my channel, if I find something that offers good value, I'll make a video or a review on it. And I ordered out of a place in Texas. I think it's Kazana. They actually sell food trucks, some equipment, and some furniture of all things. They've been in business for many years. I originally found this machine online, looking over a bunch of machines, doing a bunch of research for about a month before I ordered it. And when I found this machine, I was kind of on the fence about it because it was about $500-600 more, maybe $800 more than other machines. But this one had a hydraulic thumb and a few other options, like the pins and the lines going in the boom. The other machines had manual thumbs and some stuff like that. It just didn't quite have everything I was looking for, but I was still considering one of those manual thumb machines. I think AGM or AMG or something like that. There's QH12s, H12s, a bunch of different machines, and finally decided, like, overnight they went up like $500 on eBay, and it made this one only like $300 to $400 more with a bunch of different options and a hydraulic thumb. So instead of going through eBay, I've tracked down their website in Texas and found a bunch more information, emailed back and forth. They were super helpful, answered a lot of questions for me, and so I decided to go through them. They also have different attachments and stuff, buckets available for these machines. So I'll put a link down below to their website. Like I said, I have no problem sending people their way. They seem to be super nice to deal with, but I do not get paid any commission by any means. I want to make that clear with everybody on YouTube, because everybody thinks you got a YouTube channel, you're just getting free stuff given to you left and right. It's not the case here. Definitely looking to get this thing under cover here like my tractor is over there. But right now, this is just a simple motorcycle cover from Amazon. It covers the main housing of this thing. Boom, and everything's out in the rain. But probably this spring, I'll build a little outbuilding and park it in. But yeah, I've picked up a lot of logs and rocks, and this is pretty sturdy. I have not had a problem. I've seen some issues with these thumbs on different built machines from different companies where they don't have a spreader bar in the center here, and it's not built as strong, and that people just filleted them in the first hour of use. And I got like 10 on this thing when picking up pretty good sized logs. No issues, nothing's bent like that. I have flared out the bucket of hair over here and on this side because of these large side digger teeth clamping down onto rocks and logs. Bucket's pretty thin, but I don't think if it bends out a little bit, it's going to be an issue. I can always gusset it up. Got some plans of making some different attachments for this thing. Buckets, augers, there's all kinds of different stuff, but the buckets are pretty cheap for these machines. The company I got them from sells digger buckets or trencher buckets, which are much skinnier, and wider gravel buckets. Then you get tilting buckets also. So yeah, pretty good little system. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. YouTube does a very poor job at promoting my channel anymore, so they don't even really tell my subscribers got new videos out. So if you feel like you hit the bell icon or not, doesn't really matter. All right, until next time, take care. Oh, I'll have some update videos on this machine in the future. All right, goodbye.